She didn't think of herself as lonely. Not really. I'll be honest, I've felt something similar in a different way. Even when I'm around people I like, I sometimes feel out of place. Not because anything is wrong, just a quiet sense that I'm slightly outside of it. Like I'm there, but also watching it happen at the same time. I used to try to fix that. I would pay attention to how people talked, how they reacted, and I'd adjust myself to match it. Try to fit into the rhythm of the room, but it never felt natural. It always felt like I was trying to be someone else just to belong. And the more I did that, the more uncomfortable I felt in my own skin. Over time, I stopped trying so hard. I started going to fewer gatherings. I found that I preferred meeting people one-on-one. The conversations were quieter, but more real. I didn't feel like I had to perform. I could just be there. And that shift reminded me of someone I knew. She didn't think of herself as lonely either. If anything, she would have said the opposite. Her place was always active. People came by often enough that it didn't feel unusual anymore. It just became part of her routine. If someone wanted to get together, they would usually ask her. She never set it up that way on purpose. It just happened over time, and she went along with it. She was good at it. That probably had something to do with it. She paid attention to details. If people were coming over, she made sure there was something to eat. She didn't like the idea of anyone feeling uncomfortable. So she handled things before they became issues. She kept the place clean, made sure there were enough chairs, enough space, enough of everything. People didn't have to think when they were there. Things just worked. At the time, that felt like something to be proud of. And to be fair, most of those nights weren't bad. People talked, laughed, stayed longer than they planned to. From the outside, it would have looked like she had a strong circle around her. But there was another part to it that didn't fit that picture. After everyone left, the house didn't feel the way she expected it to. It wasn't peaceful. It wasn't relaxing. It just felt off. She would notice it in small ways. Standing in the kitchen longer than necessary. Looking around at things that needed to be cleaned up, but not starting right away. Sitting down and then getting back up without knowing why. She didn't think too much about it. She assumed it was just what happened when things got quiet after being busy. So she kept doing the same thing. If anything, she leaned into it more. More gatherings, more effort, more consistency. Looking back, there were things she didn't question at the time. She didn't question why she was always the one preparing everything. She didn't question why she was usually the last one sitting down, if she sat at all. She didn't question why no one really asked what she needed. It didn't seem like a problem. It just felt normal. And when something becomes normal, you stop seeing it clearly. The night that changed things wasn't dramatic. Nothing unusual happened, at least not in a way anyone else would have noticed. She hadn't been feeling well for a few days. Not sick enough to cancel everything, but not at her best either. The kind of feeling where your body is asking you to slow down, but you ignore it because there's no clear reason to stop. She thought about cancelling. She didn't. She got everything ready the way she always did. Cleaned up, prepared food, made sure things were in place before people arrived. By the time people started coming in, the house looked exactly the way it usually did. The evening went on like it normally would. Conversations, people moving around, nothing out of place. But she was having a harder time than usual keeping up with it. At one point, she was carrying a tray across the room. Her hands slipped. It happened quickly. The tray tilted, glasses slid off, and everything hit the floor. There was a sharp sound when the glass broke, enough to get everyone's attention. For a moment, the room went quiet. She looked up without really thinking about it. People were watching. No one moved. A couple of people leaned back slightly so they wouldn't step into the spill. Someone made a quick comment about being careful. Another person asked if there were more drinks. Then the conversation picked up again. That was it. She stood there for a second, then went to get something to clean it up. No one stopped her. No one offered. The night continued the same way after that. People stayed. They talked. They left when they were ready. Nothing about the evening stood out to anyone else. But that moment didn't leave her. It wasn't about the tray or the glass. It was how quickly everything returned to normal. She started replaying it later, not in a dramatic way, just going back over it in her head. It made her notice things she hadn't paid attention to before. She started seeing how often she was the one keeping things going, how little changed when she needed help, how comfortable everyone else was because she made it that way. It wasn't something she could ignore after that. She didn't say anything to anyone. She just started doing less. The next time someone asked about getting together, she told them she wasn't up for it. There wasn't a long explanation. She didn't try to soften it. She just said no. Some people didn't respond much to that. They made other plans without asking again. That stood out more than anything else. She started paying attention to that too. Who followed up, who didn't, who adjusted, who disappeared. It wasn't complicated once she looked at it directly. A lot of those connections depended on her being available in a certain way. Once that changed, so did they. She didn't cut anyone off. She just stopped holding everything together. The house got quieter over time. At first, it felt strange. Not in a dramatic way, just different enough to notice. There was less movement, fewer conversations, fewer things to prepare. She wasn't used to sitting still in her own space without having something to manage. But after a while, it became easier. She realized she hadn't really been experiencing her own space. She had been maintaining it. There's a difference. Once she stopped doing that, the quiet didn't feel the same. It wasn't something she needed to fill. It was just there. The number of people in her life changed. There were fewer of them. The ones who remained didn't behave the same way as before. They helped without being asked. They noticed things. They didn't assume she would take care of everything. It wasn't dramatic, just different enough to feel more balanced. That difference was obvious once she experienced it. She doesn't think of her life the same way anymore. Her place isn't as busy as it used to be, but it feels better to her now. It feels like she's actually living in it. And the people who come around now are there because they want to be, not because it's easy. If someone is used to being the one who keeps everything going, it can take time to see what's actually happening. Sometimes nothing changes until you stop doing what you've always done. When you do, things become clearer. That's what happened for her. And if any part of this felt familiar to you, you're probably not alone in that. I'd be interested to hear how this shows up in your life, whether it's something you're going through now or something you've already moved past. Thank you for spending this time with me. I really appreciate it.